Good evening, dear educators. I warmly welcome you all to our Wednesday Wisdom session on mindfulness in a digital classroom by super educator Muralidhar Koteshwar. This session is brought to you by Teacher.in collaboration with EdChat India. Now, before we move ahead, I would like to warmly welcome all the new teachers who joined us today for the first time, and let me introduce you to the teacher network. Teacher.in is a professional network for K-12 educators where educators can connect with fellow educators, exchange ideas and resources, attend training sessions like these, get upskilled, and use that new skills to find high paying teaching jobs and other employment opportunities. On a daily basis, 20 plus jobs are being posted by our hiring partners. You can go ahead and check out the platform. Moving ahead, we have a certain set of ground rules that we'd like you to follow so that we have a great learning experience throughout the entire session. Some of them are: we request all the participants to please keep your mic on mute and your video off so that it saves your bandwidth and your learning experience is not hampered. From our side, all the participants will be muted. In case if you have any queries, you can post your queries in the chat box, or if Mulli sir gives you a cue, you can unmute yourself and you can ask the question. In rest of the cases, there will however be a dedicated question answer session at the end. And in case if you face a technical glitch, we request you to please stay calm and try joining the session again. We are recording this session from our side and we would be sharing it on YouTube post the session. Moving ahead, introducing you to the super educator of the day, Mr. Muralidhar Koteshwar. Mr. Muralidhar has 3 decades of experience in education and training space. He is currently the MD at Mentor Cloud, an online mentoring platform. His passion for education led him to train over 2 lakh teachers and establish 100 plus educational institutions during his tenure as a board member of the Art of Living Educational Trust. In addition to this, he also worked in several different multinational corporations and has contributed greatly to the field of education. And we have a personal connection with Murli sir as well. Murli sir is also our advisor to teacher, and he has been there in teacher from day one. So I'm super excited for this session, sir. Thank you so much for doing this, and I'm looking forward to learning some great techniques regarding mindfulness in a digital classroom. Over to you.
Thank you, Varun. It's really wonderful to always be with teachers who are the foundation for the future of the country. So if you look at it, a teacher is respected across nations, whereas the king is the king of only one nation. There's a very interesting story of Shankar Dayal Sharma. He was the president of India, and he, as is the role of a president, they end up visiting during their tenure about 30 to 40 countries, about 7-8 countries a year and 30 to 40 countries. So one of the countries that he visited was Oman, the Kingdom of Oman. So the bilateral discussions happened, agreements were signed. It was a 2-day meeting, or maybe I don't know whether it was the first day or the second day, but it was a very detailed discussion. And when he finished everything and was coming back to India, the king personally walked with him, opened the door of his car and saw him off. So the king's team was very confused. And after the president left, they asked him, so many presidents, so many prime ministers of so many countries have come, but we never saw you do this for anyone. How come Shankar Dayal Sharma, the president of India, is different? And that's when he said, he was the president representing India until all the discussions and everything happened. And I was the king. But once the discussions were over, he was my teacher and I was his student. He taught me when I was studying in college in India. So I gave him the respect that a student needs to give a teacher. And therefore, I personally walked with him and opened the door and made sure that he was seated well. So you see, he's the king of a country, but he still had a lot of respect for his own teacher. And that's been the tradition from ancient times. And so this is the time 2021 onwards to bring back the respect for teachers. And all of us as teachers have a very big role to play in this, because in our own circle, if you're able to do this difference in our own classrooms where we are respected and we are able to transform children, then it's a huge contribution to the education space. So therefore, this topic of today is so critical and important, because many times we as teachers actually take attendance for the physical body in the class. And when we are in the class, many times we see that physically they are there, they may be opening their eyes, they may be, shaking their head, but probably they're not listening to you. The body is there, the mind is not there. And now add the COVID pandemic, and it's even worse. Okay. And definitely, like even in this session, you're not even able to see the video, so you don't know whether they're paying attention or not. You're talking into the class and you're expecting that they would get something from what you're teaching. Okay. Now it's a mixed thing. If you really learn how to do it, but teaching a class of 40 is a little bit of challenge. 25, 20, 25, it's easier because in that 1 hour you can still engage with a lot of them. So probably online classrooms, if it continues for a longer time, there may need to be a little more change in the way the sessions are taught, the way the topics are done. And I'll give you some clues and some tips on that. So what is important? How do we ensure that the child is in the class, right? And also, how do we ensure that we ourselves have the energy and the patience to be in a class like this where we are teaching? Both are important. Because imagine if your energy level itself is down and you're physically not feeling too good, you could have earlier bunked and said that I'm not well and not go to class. Somebody else will take your session. But here, at that point in time, morning you were okay, and by 11 o'clock you start to feel not so good, then it becomes a challenge. Because last minute you can't tell someone to take the class. Once or twice you cancel, it's fine. But if you do it regularly, then it becomes a challenge for the school and for you and for your name as a good teacher. So therefore, the first thing is you have to take care of yourself also. Your health. What does that mean? Some basic physical exercises as well, because many times when we're sitting continuously in the chair and teaching, and the classrooms probably walking to the staff room, going up and down the staircase, all of that, you got a little bit of exercise. Here you're inside one small house, or probably in some of you maybe going to the school as well. I know some schools where the school has arranged for the classrooms, the teachers come, but the students don't come. So it's also possible that you're there, but most important is that you give a little bit of physical exercise to yourself. Okay, so little bit of whatever it is, and there are enough and more exercises. If we get some time today, I will share some of these exercises with you, but otherwise, very important to remember basic things, absolute basic things. Exercising all parts of the body for about 5 to 10 minutes, right from your eyes to your neck to shoulders to hands, to arms, to legs, to ankles. Little bit of exercise to all parts of the body is a must so that you can remain physically okay. Of course, one of the other thing that is a big challenge today due to the type of food that we are eating is vitamin D, right? So any amount of great feeling you have, experience, you have everything you have, but your vitamin D levels are not okay, you cannot be mindful yourself in the class. You'll feel very tired, you'll get very little energy. So please check your vitamin D levels, and if it's too low, get yourself an injection. Don't wait for tablets to take its effect. It takes a month or 2 months for it to come back to normal, and you don't have that type of time if you want to be energetic next day to start taking a class. Okay, so physically take care of yourself, look at your vitamin D levels, and ensure that you take care of food. I'm told, of course, that since most of us are from home, it's possible that we're cooking good food and we're probably eating, but we have to eat on time. Make sure that if you take and build a schedule for yourself, regularly eating on time, spending the right amount of time eating, slowly digesting the food, all of that help you in making sure that your health is good. Okay, that's the first thing. Of course, as teachers, you would have educated the parents and the children also about their own health and so on. And but that much you can do. Beyond that, you don't know. But so therefore, how do you keep the attention of the children in the class? Okay, two or three things that I have done. One is that you have to be prepared with a lot of interesting puns, interesting puzzles, so that you can make the atmosphere a little light. Okay. Uh, I think I'll share some of these things with Varun later on. So probably he can upload it on the site somewhere and you can come and have a look at it and try and use it one for every class, one for each class. So I have about 70 to 100 of these things. So it'll keep you occupied for 3 months if it's just one class a day. One example, right? So a question that you can ask your children. The life of a
Excuse me.
fish. Yeah.
Are you presenting anything?
No, I'm not presenting anything as of now.
Yeah, okay, it's okay. Because I could not see. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. I'm just talking about it. I'll
Okay,
present a
sir.
little
Thank
later, but
you.
I'm
Okay,
just
thank you.
talking.
Thank you very much. Sorry for this.
Not at all. Not at all. All right. So this is one of the things that you can ask. What are you trying to do? You're engaging the attention of the class. You're trying to keep their mind also in the class, not just the body, because because of attendance they log in and their name will come on the screen and somebody says that yes, this person is attended. But how do you keep the mind in the class? So something like this, like suppose you ask a question like this to your children. The fish is in the water. Is the life of the fish in its body or is it in the water? Okay, it's a quite interesting question, because if you take the fish out of the water, the fish will die. So therefore, is the life of the fish in the water or is it in the body of the fish? So these are questions. These something like this. These are one-liners, but they're some puzzles. There's something that makes them think. Another one. Why is the equal sign considered very humble? Why is the equal sign considered very humble? And you ask them, and what you can do is, this is what I have done, is suppose there are 25, 30 children in the class. I make a note who all the people I've asked the question in this class. I keep a register and I call out one person and say, hey, Ramu, what do you think? And I want them to answer. I want them to think. And that way I know that randomly they know that I'm going to call someone. And so therefore they're going to be a little more attentive. And then I'll give them a star or something like that. I won't count it probably towards the marks or something, because it depends on the rules of the school, rules of the board, what you can do, what you cannot do. And in this situation, it's already distressing. So scaring them with marks and all that. But stars, you can say, at the end of this class, whoever gets the highest stars, I'm going to give some small, you know, it could be a basket of fruits or something that you can even give a small memento or a certificate or something like that. And you can have a discussion with the school. And the school as a whole can have a decision like this. So you start giving them stars for giving a very interesting answer, a witty answer. And you can do the same thing with your subject. As you're teaching the subject, suddenly stop, call out a name. Shweta, what do you think? So what is your answer? And if they answer it, a star. Okay, and you can decide, you can make a list of this is how I'm going to teach the class. So here you're forcing mindfulness. You're ensuring that because of the regular questioning, and some of the questioning being fun and some of it being serious. If you make it only serious, they're not going to enjoy your class and they're going to be a little scared. But if you make it fun and you have these interesting teasers. So why is the equal sign so humble? The equal sign is humble because it is neither greater nor lesser than anyone else. It's not greater than anyone else, nor is it lesser than anyone else. So the equal sign is humble. It's just an example, but there are many such things. And I'm sure you yourself as teachers can create many things in your own topic, outside your topic, day-to-day happenings on the street and the world outside. Create some of these very interesting questions so that you can constantly ask these things during the session. It's not going to take more than 30 seconds for each question. So if you ask about 5 questions in a class or 4 questions in a class of 40 minutes, it's not going to take up too much of the time of the class, right? So use that as one of the techniques for keeping them mindful. So this is a forced mindfulness. Okay, the first one was the first one was that you are ensuring that their health is good and that their uh, the uh, uh, the attention is there, but this is forced mindfulness. Okay, so am I audible? Varun, am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are
Okay,
audible.
okay, I'm going ahead. So
But sir, you're audible, but voice is very low.
uh, no, when I'm talking also, is it low?
Yes, sir.
What about the
It,
others?
it's
Now
fine
it's
at
okay.
my end, sir.
Now
It's
it's
perfectly
now
fine.
it's okay.
Okay, fine.
Yes,
I'll
sir,
In the
take
it's
it.
beginning it's so
absolutely
low.
fine.
Now it's okay.
It's not, it's low,
It's
but
fine,
it's
sir.
actually it's very soft. That is why.
Okay.
It's yeah.
I can't help it.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. No, no, it's
Okay. Let's continue. Let's continue. So the
Very very soothing, sir. Very soothing. You continue, please. Thank you.
so so I will repeat. So we have to force the mindfulness, right? Varun, can you mute somebody else? I think there's somebody's not muted, and that's why this background sound is coming. Echo.
Sure. Done, sir. Everyone's mute.
Okay. So so one is forced mindfulness. What have you done? You are making them aware that anytime this teacher is going to ask me either a fun question or a serious question. So I must be awake, I must be aware, and I must participate. Okay, so this is forced mindfulness. The second one is, something which comes out of intention. The child is really interested to learn and therefore is mindful in the class. Okay, so how do you make this intentional, right? How do you keep this interest of the child in the class? I found, what I call as 5 points, and the secret of the 5 points is in the word point itself. POINT. I found that when you use this 5 points in POINT, you find that the children are really, really interested in what you're teaching. It does require you to make a little more effort in getting across your point to the child, but it pays off in the long run. So let's see what these 5 points are. Right. The first one is perception. Whether we like it or not, whatever we are teaching, the child will have some perception of what that point is. And therefore, if we engage with the classroom in a questioning mode and saying, what is your perception of this topic? Okay, you will get some answers and you can use your chat box very well in this. Okay, get the answers and then read those answers. Okay, so let me do a quick sample here now. Okay, all right, so you can use your chat and tell me the answer. Where does the sun rise? At least a few chats. The question is, where does the sun rise? East. Umarani says east. Okay. Anybody else has a different answer? Monika ji says east. Asma says east. Manika is coming differently, says does not rise. Okay. Then what else?
At Japan, sir.
Pardon? Go ahead. Chat. No, somebody can chat. Skies. Sun rises in the morning from the east side. Okay. All right. So sun doesn't rise. Gladina. Okay. So here's the point. Now, the perception of the child when you ask a question like this is this child is seeing the sun rise. Okay, so the perception from the child's perspective at that point in time is right. But you are a teacher, you know better. Okay, and then therefore what you will do is in this particular class, you will play a video of the photo of the sun and the earth or the video of the earth or somebody has recorded from a satellite. And then you will revisit the question and you will ask the children now. And what will they say? Oh, yes, the sun doesn't rise, it doesn't set. The sun is, in one sense, of course, it's not stationary, it's also moving. But from the Earth's perspective, the Earth is moving around the sun. So the sun doesn't rise, nor does it set. All right. So you are now giving them an observation. The O is observation. You are correcting their observation, and therefore their perception changes. So the P changes because you, any topic that you take, you give them you're understanding their perception, and you're giving your observation as a teacher. And when you give your observation as a teacher, it makes the child think, aha, yes, I did not think about this. So when you give your perception and observation, then what happens in the mind of the child is that the inference it draws, I is inference. Inference it draws from what you have said so far is different from what inference it had drawn earlier when its perception was not right. It doesn't mean that the perception will always be wrong. No. In fact, we are in the age of the millennials. Some of the children will know more than us. And therefore, when we ask a question and you find that a child is answering beautifully and correctly, give them a pat on the back and say, see, Mohit got it right. Come on, Mohit. And if you are able to enable Mohit to talk, that's fine. Otherwise, you know what Mohit says, and you read out his chat and say, see, Mohit got it right. So his observation was correct. And therefore, you know, this is what we need to infer from in this topic. So you have to put in a little effort to see how you can get into a questioning mode with the children so that they can be mindful in the class, right? Perception, observation, inference. Okay. Now we have the syllabus and we need to cover the syllabus and we need to make sure that it is as per what is there in the books and so on. Right? That's the requirement from the board. So we have no choice. But it doesn't mean that that is our complete role as a teacher. You know, sometimes what happens is that something new has come in the field and that's probably not there in the book yet, probably, right? So, and if you have that information, then that N is new. Either you share it, or when you're giving assignment to the students, you can say, you know what, there was something new that has come out in this field, and that is your homework for today. Go back and next class when we meet, you must come with your homework and say, what is the new thing that has happened in this particular topic? Because many times the new thing is what keeps the children engaged. They really love to know what is the latest in whatever they are learning about. And it's possible that every field, something new people are constantly working on. You name the topic, I'll give you an example, you know, water. Something new has come because there's a big challenge with all over the world on water. So some people, I studied at IIT Madras, some of my colleagues in the department, they've come out with a machine that can bring water from thin air. And many places they're supplying this thing now where there is nothing else. It's very difficult to lay pipelines. The water supply is very far. They're supplying these machines to those villages. It is giving them water from thin air, from condensing the moisture. So that is something new. It's not there in the textbooks. For sure, it's not there in the textbooks. Okay, so this is something that you can educate them, saying that, hey, this is what you can do. All right, so that is something new. Either you do research yourself or you get the students to do research for that particular point, for that particular subject. And the last one, the T, is traditional. Okay, whatever it is, the world is cyclical. We're constantly coming out with new things and finding that some of the new things are something that the old things were already there. For example, the water wells in Gujarat, there is proof now that it's a great rainwater harvesting system. Point T for traditional. So therefore, if you do a little research and say in the past, what was the tradition in this field, you will always get some clue. You may not get it in all the fields, but there is a possibility that in that field, you know, if you get that clue, you can do it. You can even ask some of the children. Can you ask your grandparents how were they doing this during their time? That's a good question. It's a good homework. But then when you do this, when you make a point, POINT, perception, observation, inference, new and traditional, you find that on your own, on the children will be very interested to learn the topic that you are teaching. Of course, this applies for basic things like, whether it's physics or chemistry and so on. But mathematics, when you're doing problem solving, you can't apply this topic completely, but definitely you can talk about the application. You can talk about the application. When I was studying math, one of my teachers asked me, do you know Fourier transformation? This was after 12th. And we were all looking side by side and said, no, professor, we don't know what is Fourier transformation. And then he said, it's a pity because your ear knows Fourier transformation. We were surprised. How come our ear knows it and we don't know it? And then he explained to us how the ear works. The ear is so capable of taking different sounds, processing all the different sounds at the same time. Like, for example, some of you are hearing some vessel's noise now. OK, but you're still able to hear me as well. So how is it that you're able to hear both? Because each of our sounds has a different signal and your ear is capable of processing those different signals. And if you have heard it before, you know what it is. If you have not heard it before, it's a new noise. And until someone tells you what it is, it doesn't get stored in your memory as a different noise. Once it gets stored, next time you hear it, you can hear everything again all over again. OK, but if you're in acceptance with that noise, you can hear me very well. If you're getting disturbed by that noise, then you're not mindful. You're not mindful if you're getting disturbed by that noise. So therefore, one way to be mindful is to be in acceptance with the noise around you. The moment you're in acceptance, then it's much more easier to be mindful in the class. OK, so in fact, we had a very interesting experience in one of our schools. The teacher was teaching a standard 2 or standard 3, and as she was teaching, there was a frog outside we had a small pool like thing in the school premises, and there was a frog there and it was croaking. And do you think a second standard child or a third standard child will be attentive in the class when the frog is croaking? No, it's constantly trying to see in the window. And the moment the teacher turns towards the board to write something, the child runs to the window and tries to see where is that sound coming from. It's a very loud sound. Now the teacher realized it's already 5-6 minutes into the class, another 40 minutes left. If this continues, none of these children will pay attention to what I'm doing. So she takes the whole class outside near the pond and they watch the frog. Now, how long can you watch a frog? Whoever you are, right? Unless you're a specialist in frogs and your whole life is spent in understanding frogs. If you're a second standard child, you will watch it for 2 minutes, see it croaking. And after 3 minutes, you'll tell the teacher, ma'am, can we go back to class? Because it's no longer interesting. It's just croaking there. But if you didn't see it croaking, it is still curious. You're wondering what is happening. So in 3 minutes, she finished that and brought the whole children back to class and continued. And the children never got disturbed by that frog's croaking after that. You see, that is the trick of mindfulness. The moment you're able to accept sounds, it's much more easier to be mindful in any class. OK, so the trick is see how you can make this topic much more interesting by involving them, by finding out what is their perspective, improving, changing their observation, giving them information, and making sure that they infer the right answer from your topic. And you can start with wrong things. I've seen a lot of parents teach colors to their children by giving wrong color names just to keep validating whether the child is attentive or not. And they are. When you start saying such things, they say, no, that's not pink, that's blue. So, you're able to validate that also. You need not tell the right thing always the first time. Just push a small wrong one in the middle just to see what they say, right? And like I said, you can either give a homework to make them do something new, or you yourself do a little research on that, on what is the latest thing on that, and be prepared for the class and ask the question. Traditional, like I said, rainwater harvesting system in the example of water. In everything, you can even ask them to ask back home, ask the grandmother, grandparents, or you yourself, if you can do some work on the traditional part, or you give them as an assignment. How was it like? How did they do this particular thing in the olden days? It could be anything, but just to get them to be aware, because all of this may not be in the syllabus, but you can keep them interested in the topic that you're teaching. So when you make a point, it keeps them in the memory. They're able to remember and recall it. OK, so one is regularly doing, validating, and whether they are there, asking them interesting questions, asking them or telling them fun things, like what I said in the beginning. Another question is, look at a lot of these medicinal bottles. It says poison, take only under medical prescription, which is right. A lot of them are definitely not to be taken by everybody. So the question is, it has an expiry date. Every medicine will have an expiry date. So the question is, when that medicine says poison, be careful, keep out of reach of children or whatever, and it is poison, when it expires, does it become more poisonous or less poisonous? That's a question, something to think about. It's like a riddle. Okay, so something like that, keep them involved and involve them from their own because they're interested in the topic. When you make it relevant to them, when you apply the knowledge, like I said, mathematics, you can show how it applies to their real life. Every mathematical problem always has some application in real life. And maybe all of it is not there in the books, but if you're a math teacher, you would know what I'm saying. You'll always see that how did the particular topic originate, whether it's calculus or integration or basic algebra or basic things, how did it originate? And there's a lot of things that is there about traditional Vedic mathematics, whatever. So you can talk about it. But what is new? What have they found? For example, cryptography. Many of my friends who work in cryptography, that is making sure that all our financial data is safe, all our online conversation is safe, is encrypted. They find that Panini's grammar of Sanskrit has a lot of clues on making sure that people cannot break a cryptography, cannot break an encryption. So that is something traditional, but it's being used today by cryptographers. That is why India is getting a very big name in cryptography, because a lot of them are using these ancient techniques, right? So it's always possible for you to do a little more groundwork, little more research work, and come out with this information. Okay, so that's the thing. So keeping yourself physically fit by doing a little bit of physical exercises and making sure you stretch your legs, hands, mind, sensing, keeping yourself healthy, vitamin D, and making sure that you're eating right on time, drinking enough water, very, very important. Okay, and then the last one is, we take about 2 liters of water a day. All right, and we take about 2 kilos of food a day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and that will keep us healthy. It's the appropriate thing. But we take in 10,000 liters of air every day. 10,000 liters of air. Now, when we take in 10,000 liters of air, and if we don't take it in properly and take it out properly, it's not going to work on our bodies. Okay, so therefore, taking in this 10,000 liters of air and ensuring that it helps you remain alive and mindful is very important. So what can you do to make sure that you can use the breath also, in addition to the rest of it that we discussed, right? Doing a few forceful breaths in a day will suddenly make you much more alert. Okay, it'll keep you mindful, and you can make your children also do these exercises suddenly and say, hey, come on, let's do this. I'm finding that you're not showing attention, especially in the afternoon classes. You're going to have a big challenge if they've had curd rice at home. They're going to be very, very sleepy. Right? So these are exercises that you can do. Probably I'll show my video on and you can have a look at 2 of these exercises. Okay, am I visible? Varun, you should
Yes,
validate. Okay.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So, what you can do is keep your hands by the side. Okay. And as you breathe in, take your hands up. And as you breathe out, bring it down. Okay. It's called bhastrika. The bhastrika is an instrument that is used by goldsmiths to put air into the fire. Right. And so this is like the bhastrika. You put in air while you take your hands up and bring it down forcefully and breathe out forcefully. About 5 or 10 of these, you'll find suddenly the energy is rushing into your body and you're able to be much more attentive. You're able to make your children also much more attentive. We have regularly used this in all our classes and it works like magic. The moment we find that children are not paying attention or they're not very, sort of falling sleepy, say, come on, let's all do Bhastrika, and just do this 10, 15 times and you will find that the energy level comes back. In fact, in the olden days, why they would hold the ears and then sit down. It was something similar. When you pull the ears, it activates some nerves in the brain which prevents sleeping. And that's why when children were not paying attention in class in the olden days, the teacher would say, come on, hold your ears and then do buski. uh, that would immediately wake them up. Of course, nowadays it's considered as punishment and not allowed. But if you do Google and say super brain yoga, you will find that in America they're teaching this for $100. Same thing. Hold your ears and jump up and down, or sit up and down, do buskis. Right. So that's one way of keeping them awake. But what I taught you, the Bastrika, is another way. Any breathing technique you can, if you know something else, some other breathing technique, the Nadi Shodhan pranayam or any breathing, just deep breathing, simply that is also good enough, right? So when you have a 10,000 liters of air that you're breathing in, and you breathe in and breathe out a lot, okay, this helps keeping the mind also fresh and awake. You'll find that you get refreshed the moment you do some of these techniques. Okay, now I'm going to just share one screen with you, just 2 minutes, to tell you the benefits of when you do this little bit of exercise, and then you just keep your eyes closed. You can do this beyond the class. It's the word used in the West is mindfulness. In India, we call it meditation also. Right? Being mindful in class means being in a meditative state. So you yourself calming your nerves, calming your mind for some time in during the day will help you be very attentive. And of course, if you're able to get the children to do that, that's also nice. In many of the schools that we establish, in many of the schools we train, whether it's the New Delhi Municipal Corporation School, the Sainik schools, many schools, we trained a lot of students in doing these exercises and also meditating. And the benefits are amazing. In fact, in many schools in the US and Europe, in Argentina, a lot of schools, they made it mandatory. All the children do meditation in the morning. And it's a very simple meditation, right? So scientifically, it's now proven there are benefits of benefits of are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what meditation does is that it takes the brain to the alpha state. Okay, so you have these electrical impulses. It takes it to 8 to 14 cycles per second. So what does that happen? What happens is, therefore, all the nerves get rest. Even at night when you sleep, you get dreams because your nerves are not resting. But when you meditate, the nerves rest and it takes the brain to an alpha state, and you can do a lot more things. You become a lot more creative. You become a lot more energetic. You become a lot more attentive. So a lot of research has been done on this. So therefore, if the students can be taught, and there are many links which I will share with Varun, you can even get your students to say, hey, why don't you try meditation? These are trying times. You're at home. Do a little bit of physical exercise and do 10-minute meditation, 5-minute meditation. It helps them be attentive in class throughout the day. We found that the children, when they leave the school at 3 o'clock, when we had physical school, even at the end of 3:30, 4 o'clock, they would be very fresh, because early mornings, we always started with these breathing exercises, little bit of yogasana and meditation. Okay. And when they go deeper into meditation, the brain really relaxes. And a relaxed brain is so important to learning. All of you, you don't need anybody to tell you this. The moment the brain is relaxed, learning happens amazingly. So so therefore, if you're able to manage stress, the mind is peaceful and joyful. It triggers hope, optimism. The adrenaline is normal, the heartbeat is normal, the blood pressure is normal, the breathing is slow and deep, and the metabolism is normal, the stomach readies properly, you eat properly on time, you breathe, use the breath properly, the excretory system clears the toxins. Our body is such a big chemical factory. If you don't take care of the body holistically, you can't be attentive anywhere, either teaching or listening. So then when you're doing this and you're able to be more meditative, more peaceful, overall, you're able to address the day-to-day challenges and make sure that from the at the end of the class, you don't have to get worried. Okay, so thank you for your attention. I know that I would actually love it to be more experiential. All right, and we can. Do we have another 5 minutes?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We do.
For question answer. Okay, so I'm going to show you some simple exercises which you can do, and you cannot have an excuse that you don't have time. Okay, one thing, absolutely make sure, okay, that you give eye exercises. You're all watching the screen for such a long time, so it's very important to give eye exercises. Very simple eye exercise: up, down, left, right, clockwise movement, anti-clockwise movement. So this is the basic thing. And then using your, you know, uh, middle finger, pressing the eyebrows 5 times clockwise, 5 times anti-clockwise, pressing the side of the eyes 5 times clockwise, 5 times anti-clockwise, pressing the bottom of the eyes 5 times clockwise, 5 times anti-clockwise, pressing the bridge of the nose, but at the eyes corner 5 times clockwise, 5 times anti-clockwise. So when you do this, your eye gets, the muscles in the eye get the right amount of exercise. Okay, that's the thing for the eyes. And the ears, you already know, I told you, even though, before somebody else pulls your ear, you pull your own ear so that you can, keep those nerves in the brain much more alert. Then the neck rotation. Okay, neck rotation is very, very important. All of us, whether we like it or not, will grow old. But if you don't do neck rotation regularly, you will start to bend. The spine starts to bend. So the secret, even though you're 90 or 100 and you walk straight, is neck rotations. So without fail, every day, 5 times in one direction, 5 times in the other direction, do neck rotation. Then the shoulder. Keep your thumb on the shoulder, shoulder rotations. Okay, again, 5 times one direction, 5 times the other direction. Okay, so that'll keep your hands also free. And then this is something which is important for your back, because you're going to be sitting for so long. Now is worse, at least in the class you are standing for some time. Here you could probably be sitting if you're using PowerPoint. If you're using the board, you may stand for some time, but make sure that you do this exercise at least once a day, 20 times. Take your hands up, pull it up, and feel the backbone, the spine being pulled. You have to feel the pull. Okay, you can't do it without the pull. Just keep pulling your hands up, at least 10 or 15 times, and relax. And then the last exercise, which all of you being at home can definitely do, is before you get out of bed, cycle. Cycling is very, very good, because it gives exercise for the thighs, for the ankles, for the knee joints, for the hip joints. And that's the best exercise. Cycle when you're sleeping and count up to 20. If you're able to do 20 without stopping, then you're good. Okay, and eventually you must do 3 rounds of 20 for you to be really very good as far as the legs are concerned. Okay, and don't postpone this, because our mind has a tendency to postpone good things, and it'll immediately do a bad thing. If you're angry, when you shout it's not good, but you never postpone your anger. You never say, I'm angry with this person, I'll call day after tomorrow and blast him. No, you will not do that. You will call the phone and blast that person. But whatever you have learned today now with me, how you can become more mindful, some physical exercise, some mental meditation, you'll think of postponing and say, okay, December, I'll take a New Year resolution. I'll start on January 1st, and January 1st will never come. Okay, so don't let the mind trick you. Whatever is good for you, do it right away. I've been in this field now for about 3 decades, and I've never taken leave, never fallen sick. But it hasn't come from luck. It has come from investment in exercise, investment in meditation, in yogasana, eating food right on time, carrying food in my car in case I'm going to be delayed. Suppose I know I won't reach home before 2, but 1 o'clock is my lunchtime. I'll always have dry fruits in my car. At 1 o'clock sharp, I'll take some dry fruits and eat. The advantage is the body at 1 o'clock starts to do, acids. It knows that some food is going to come now. And if the food doesn't come, you'll get acidity. So those of you who don't eat on time regularly, you will end up having acidity. So take care of that. That will help you being more mindful. Okay, drink enough and more water, and do these breathing exercises so you use your 10,000 liters properly. Okay, and the rest of it, what I told you, I'm going to share some of those puns and riddles with Varun. Plus, I'm going to share some meditation, tapes or meditation links with him, so you can do that, and you can tell your children also to do that. And remember the point: perception, observation, inference, new, traditional. That'll keep them a little more awake. And in the middle, keep asking these interesting questions, probably give them stars. And then at the end of the whole topic is over, whoever has got the highest number of stars, give them some certificate, some small medal, or just something that they love. I normally say, don't say chocolates, because chocolates is not so good. Earlier we used to say chocolates, but now with sugar and all that, it's not a very good thing. Probably a basket of fruits. Okay. So again, thank you very much for your time, for your listening. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. You can either chat or unmute yourself and ask. And if it comes in the chat, Varun, please ask those questions to me.
Sure, sir.
Good evening, sir. May I?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sir, just as you talked about this mindfulness, the activities and all, they seem to be more applicable to younger kids. What about the senior secondary and senior kids? I mean, how to make them understand or make them realize the importance of the classes they are supposed to do?
That's a good question. In one sense, it applies to all kids, but it's easier for the younger kids to accept what you're saying because they have a lot more respect and interest towards you. Okay. So what you can do for the older kids is always show what they're learning is connected to what they need in life. Okay. And if you've been teaching these children for quite some time, you can actually make a note of each of your child and say, what does this child want to do? What does this child want to be? I'll give you an example. Okay. So there was this child who loved cricket but hated physics. And we do these workshops for parents called Know Your Child and Know Your Team. So one such workshop in the school, the parent came and told me my child, hates physics and doesn't like physics class at all. But I said, okay, what does he really like? He loves to play cricket. So this was, the way we had timed the workshop was between 1:30 and 3:30, so that the moment the class is over, the parents can take the children and go. So 3:30, the child came running to the mother, and I asked the child, I said, oh, so you play cricket? He said, yes. What do you like the most? He says, I love playing cricket batting and I keep hitting the ball. I really love to do. I said, at what angle do you hit the ball for it to reach a sixer? He says, what angle? I don't know. I said, that's physics. See, you don't know. When you learn at what angle if you hit, it'll go the furthest. That is physics. So then when I connected what he's really loving to the topic that he was hating, he automatically started to love the topic. It always happens. Like there was one senior child in 10th standard whose mother told me and whose teachers also told me. I went to train the teachers in that school. And the teacher told us that this guy hates geography, but he loves gaming. He loves playing games, Xbox and all of these things. So I got into a conversation with him. I said, what are the games you play? He said, I play this, that, then. There was one game specifically which talked about war. That means you can have war with different countries. I said, eventually, what do you want to do? He says, I want to build some games. I want to learn programming and start building some of these games. This is something I love. I said, okay, now if you're going to fight a war and you have a lot of vehicles with you, what are the different types of vehicles you will have? There's something called all-terrain vehicle. Why do you need an all-terrain vehicle? Because it goes on different terrain. And if you don't know what different terrain is, which is geography, how will you design games? And that shook him. He says, you're right. There could be marshy land, there could be hills, there could be uneven ground. So I must see which vehicle can go there and then allow the person who's the commander of the army to choose such a vehicle in the game. So moment I showed the connection between the game and geography, he started showing interest in geography. So identify for all your students, what is it that they love? What is it they really like doing? And then see what topic you're teaching, how it's connected to what he's doing. And let me tell you, you will always find a connection. There is no two topics in this world which is not connected. You will always find a connection.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome. So anybody else?
Sir, there's a question from Ms. Sheetal Parimo. How to motivate ADHD students for meditation?
The main thing for ADHD students is because they are not doing enough exercise, and you have to find out also. We had a similar situation. We found very interestingly that their food habits was also very bad. They were taking too many high energy things at all times of the day, and some of it was like high sugar, and some of it was bakery products, lot of maida. So if you're able to get the child's parents to listen to you and stop maida and sugar completely for the child, and then make them get a trampoline at home or do some Surya Namaskar 10, 15, 20 rounds every morning before the class, then automatically some of the ill effects of ADHD will come down dramatically. We've been very successful with the combination of diet and exercise. Okay, any other question?
There's a question from Sangeeta Mishra, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
How to put across management that meditation is an effective tool for concentration? In fact, I think majority of the teachers would relate to this question, sir. It'd be wonderful to know your opinion.
Right. You know, nothing better than experiential. Okay, nothing better than experiential. You should say yourself, you know what, I did this meditation and I found it so nice. My mind became so much calmer and I was able to extend for a longer, and send them that link and say, sir, why don't you try it? A lot of people, you know, they don't want to do it in public, but privately, every human being is the same. Some may be rich, some may be poor, some may be tall, some may be, you know, short, some may be intellectual, some may be intelligent, some may be in management, some may be in labor, but human beings are human beings. So the mind meditation will help everybody, not just one type of human being. But some of these senior people, management people, don't like to do it along with the other colleagues, or so they try to dismiss it. But today it has changed. So you have to understand what type of person your management person is. If he or she is an intellectual person, share research with them. Sir, I did this meditation, amazing, and I found this research on which shows that when you do meditation, these are the benefits. Send them that research. Then they'll say, okay, I also have this problem. For example, blood pressure. If somebody has a blood pressure problem, purely, clearly, meditation will help. Right? And there are some certain meditations which will help blood pressure. I can share those links. So share it with them. If that person is a experiential person, then and he or she is willing to do a meditation session along with you, along with all the teachers, then you take one of these YouTube videos and play it in the Google Meet or the Microsoft Teams or Zoom, whatever you have. You share it and play it and let them also experience it. So either experience or intellect, one of these two, if you address of the management, you will be able to get them to support. Right? Because the moment they know that, if they are willing to invest time and effort in meditation themselves and also encourage you to do it, and it'll help your health and it'll help the school's calmness, because anger is very dangerous for everyone, then they will start to believe it. In fact, right now, because of the COVID, every morning 6 to 6:30, the Art of Living founder Sri Sri gives meditation every morning on Doordarshan. 622 channel on Tata Sky, but it's, I don't know in which other channels what it is, but a Doordarshan channel every morning 6 to 6:25, 6:20, he has a 20-minute meditation. So if you're an early riser, I mean, I've been doing this for the last 3 months now. Of course, earlier also I used to do, but this 3 months ago this started. I wake up by 5 o'clock and I start my routine, and between 6 and 6:20 I do the meditation, and it's amazing. Okay.
Thank you for sharing that, sir. Just have a follow-up question with regards to information that you said. I'm just curious. So, sir, you had mentioned a lot of information about how teachers can personalize learning based on individual based on individual students' requirements and stuff. Now, when you talk about a sample size in a class about 40 students, how can one effectively do that and also ensure that all the students are mindful and the learning experience is not hampered?
Right. So there's always this 80-20 rule, right? So the 80% of the problems in a class are given by the 20% of the students.
Right.
Okay. So therefore you identify that 20%. That 20% is 8. Okay. Identify those 8 students and make a profile of those 8 students for yourself, and always push them into So the one is, of course, they do not disturb the class. Second is, if you know a little more about them, you can always ask them pointed questions and show them, hey, Rahul, you wanted to be an actor. You know what? For acting, you need good communication. And for good communication, you need to know what is pitch of the voice. And if you want to know about pitch is something that is taught in science and physics. So learn about pitch, how you can improve your pitch. Things like that. I'm just saying, show the connection, show that you're personalizing, show that you care, and the rebel will start to listen to you and probably listen to the class. But you can do only your 100%. You're only responsible for what you do. You can't pull that person and change that person completely. It takes time, but you should have a little bit of patience and identify those 8 people who are the ones who need that type of attention.
Great. Thank you for that, sir. Dear teachers, if you have any question, we can take one last question before we move ahead. So you can unmute yourself and ask the question in case if there are any. Also on the screen, you would be seeing the feedback form link. All the information that was shared today would be shared to your mail and with all the relevant links if you fill the feedback form. And this is the only way in which we can reach out to you. So I request all the teachers to please fill the feedback form before you end the session. And
do you want to share this in the chat so that they can click on it?
Yes,
Because
sir.
what you show on the screen, they can't click on it.
I have shared it, sir. I've shared it in the chat box.
All right, wonderful.
So, dear teachers, we'd also love to know your thoughts on today's session. And if you're on Twitter, please share your thoughts and tag us. You can reach out to Murli sir on Twitter at the rate of his handles name is at the rate of M Koteshwar. Please tag HChat India and Teacher Tweets and let us know your thoughts. And thank you once again for being a part of Wednesday Wisdom session. And I hope you found some great value. Thank you, Murli sir, for facilitating a wonderful session. In fact, the first part of it, there was only audio, but it was amazing how you had effectively captured our attention, and there was this amazing learning outcome that we have seen. In addition to that, sir, the other aspect is that all the point strategy and the other strategies that you mentioned were really nice. And I really hope that all the teachers would be taking it back to the classroom and implementing it in their digital classrooms. So thank you once again for taking your time and sharing your valuable knowledge with the educator community. Means a lot.
Thank you for the opportunity. Always happy to help. Namaste to everyone and all the best. Stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy. Namaste.
Thank you, sir.